burger at 2 a.m. Sometimes just burger.
You said you're having a cocktail with some NFL mystery man. What's Belichick's drink order?
Hey, he does not wear the hood in India.
Looking forward to you doing your thing, man.
Okay, thank you.
No cap, Peter. Kyle Brandt is back. We have Melissa Etheridge on the show.
So fun. Huge Chiefs fan, rock legend.
I just saw on Twitter that she's going to pick you apart for some reason.
Yeah, Missy, as I call her, seems to think that I'm a Chiefs antagonist. Maybe it's because I wore a barrel once on the show. That's fine. Let's do it, Melissa. Come on.
That's stuck. It's time for the lead block. All things combine and CBA drama. Let's bring in Tom Pelissero from Indianapolis this morning. Just saw your tweet, Mr. Pelissero, about Joe Burrow and his measurements. What can you tell us?
Well, the quarterback measurements got underway this morning. The second group involving Tua Tagovailoa and others actually getting going right now. Joe Burrow measured in at 6'3.5", 221 pounds. The weight is interesting because he was listed at 216 at LSU. I spoke to a number of scouts who all thought he looked like he was 210 pounds, if that. That would be on the lighter side for an NFL quarterback. So the fact that he's put on some weight, scouts are going to like that. The measurement now that everybody is seizing on is he has 9-inch hands. Now, that is under the threshold that NFL teams generally look for. Usually you want 9.25. Well, let's put that in context. Jared Goff, a #1 pick, had 9-inch hands. Baker Mayfield, 9.25-inch hands. Kyler Murray, 9.5-inch hands. There is a lot to evaluate with Joe Burrow. His hand size, one small part of that.
Yeah, and there's going to be all sorts of microscopes. But that was Jake Fromm he was working with there, the Georgia quarterback. He's going to be under the microscope, too. Quarterbacks are one side of this, Tom. But this week is really interesting from a big picture NFL perspective because of the new CBA talks. Tom, on Friday, you reported that NFLPA Executive Committee voted 6-5 not to recommend the CBA proposal to the board that we thought would be accepted. What is going on tomorrow, and why is Tuesday such a big day when we're talking about the CBA and beyond?
Well, tomorrow, NFLPA leadership will meet with members of the NFL Management Council Executive Committee. It'll be the first time that a lot of these player leaders have been in the same room with ownership since last July. So what I'm told is that they're hoping to have an honest conversation about player safety and other issues. It's also an opportunity for those players who are opposed to this proposed CBA, which of course includes going to a 17-game schedule, to voice some of their concerns with various aspects of the deal. Now, you mentioned that executive committee vote. That is notable because the executive committee is the group that negotiated this deal. They did not recommend it to the Board of Representatives. That's the 32 player reps. And that group has the power over the general conduct of these negotiations. So what the board did was slow things down. They scheduled this meeting with the CEC. They'll have these conversations. Then the plan is for the board to vote either Tuesday night or Wednesday morning on whether they will recommend it to all roughly 2,000 players. And then those 2,000 players will cast the final vote, only a simple majority needed to choose whether or not to ratify this deal. So still an opportunity here for 10 years of labor peace by the end of this week.
And it's all going on this week in Indianapolis. Lots, a huge week for the NFL. Tom, thanks for bringing all of that to light. It seems like the two biggest headline-grabbing changes are the 17-game season and, of course, the extended playoffs. Shrakes, break this down. What do you think of these changes?
I cannot tell you how wild this past week was as far as CBA goes. And if you're watching our show, we weren't on last week. Let me just explain this. The executive committee from the NFLPA, made up of 11 people, have been negotiating with the owners in the league for years, talking about what to get to. They finally thought they had a proposal in place. The NFL comes out, the media all reports it, that here's what there is. And then the executive committee, before it even presented to the players, themselves vote 6-5 no. So they were the ones negotiating it. Then when they reassessed it, they said, no, actually, we're not going to be recommending this to our players. So now they're like, all right, let's figure this all out. Let's all fly to Indianapolis Tuesday and see what it is. The general reaction from the players, J.J. Watt wasn't happy. A lot of these other veterans who have already signed their mega deals, not thrilled. But at the end of the day, this is the two stuff here. The 17th regular season game and how they're compensated for it, and an extra playoff team. 7 from each conference is a really big deal. The NFL and the owners, I could tell you, are just befuddled at some points because we thought we were in a place where this was going to be approved and at least presented to the players. But even the executive committee of the NFLPA said no to their own thing that they negotiated, and the media all ran with it. It's kind of murky right now, and Tuesday is a huge, huge day. How do I feel about it? Well, I'd hope the executive committee would be able to approve a deal that it negotiated itself from the players, and they could present to their players what they recommend.
You're an agent of chaos. What do you think about this, Kyle? The #1 seed, the only team to receive a bye under the proposed changes. What do you think of everything?
A couple of things. The 17-game season, to use J.J. Watt's phrase, a hard no from me. And I'll just take it from the fans' perspective. I don't want to change the thing. It's set. It's 16 games. You do 17, then we're in the upside down. A 1,000-yard season doesn't mean what it used to. It's all 16 games. I get frustrated when the undefeated Dolphins team always says we're undefeated. We played a 14-game regular season. It's not apples to apples. I don't like changing it. I also think that there's something with NFL football of scarcity. You only have so much, and it makes it more precious. It's like diamonds, you know? We're seeing some football this spring that I don't think is NFL football. It's not the same thing. I also, to that same note, don't want more playoff teams. You think more is better. No, it's not. If they had this rule in last year, the Rams would have gotten in the playoffs. The Steelers would have gotten in the playoffs. Guys, we didn't need either of those teams in the playoffs. No. They weren't playoffs teams. And it's kind of like the Hall of Fame. I like the exclusivity. I don't like 44% of the teams are in the playoffs. It's supposed to be hard. There's supposed to be rejects. And this idea of more. Guys, I'm just coming off a vacation. I was at the bar doing unlimited pina coladas. Like, after the fourth one, it's disgusting. Like, that's what I feel like this. More is not always better.
Too much.
Keep it precious.
Speaking of diamonds, you're talking from the perspective of the superstars that shine bright like diamonds. What about the uncut gems? You know, shout out to Adam Sandler.
Sure.
But what about
those
guys that are the backups? Those guys are at the end of the roster, the tail end of the 53, that are sitting there saying, oh, man, 17th game, and then also more playoff teams.
Another game check?
Another game check.
JJ got some blowback because JJ is very wealthy and very well paid, and he said hard no. Well, what about the 53rd guy who's going to make another check? That's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Exactly. So there's these individuals that look at this and say, you know what, there's more of an opportunity for me to make a name for myself as a player and then also make more money for my family. And then when speaking of the preseason games, you're telling me, and here's the thing, Shrakes, you mentioned it, this has been in the talks for a while. We're talking about 2 decades. Mm-hmm. When I was drafted in 2003, this was the conversation. So I've been hearing about this forever. So for now, it to be at the topic of the table, being the topic of the table, I can appreciate the fact that it is here finally. Now, if you're talking about regular season games versus preseason games, I'd rather take a regular season game and more playoff games because the preseason has basically turned the NFL to NFLM, National Football Load Management, because we're not seeing superstars playing in the preseason. So why not remove one of them games that seem to be forgotten as soon as they start and add it to the regular season?
Where do you come out on 17 games? You're for it?
I'm all for it, yeah, for sure.
As an advocate for player health and a former player, you're all for an extra game, another one on the dock.
What are we doing with the preseason? Why not just I'll say remove a couple of preseason games. We'll go 2 preseason games, add a 17th game, and it gives players more opportunity to play. Here's the thing. When I played, I wanted more football. Okay, I didn't care about a game being on a Thursday and a short turnaround in the week. You put me back on the field because I got paid a ton of money to play a sport.
You know, Nate, December, the legs are tired. Everybody's hurting. Their body is starting to tap out. You talk all the time, body's screaming to you. Now, figure another game, and you got to play the Steelers again. So that's a lot.
Yeah, but these guys in 2020 are also making more millions than they ever made before. These contracts are mimicking baseball and basketball. So you're telling me these same dudes that are benefiting off of the dollar signs that these teams are making and the revenue of a $16 billion industry are complaining about a 17th game? I say get out of here. Give me a break. There's dudes in the 70s and 80s that would have played that 17th game and then worked the job in the offseason. Some of these dudes that are making 15, 20, 35, $40 million don't want to play a 17th game. Give me a break.
How do you feel about, as a player, an extra team being in the playoffs?
I'm good because if you're one of the better teams, you can care less about a lesser team being in the playoffs. But if you're one of those lesser teams...
The Titans and the Vikings got into the playoffs last year, and they certainly made some noise.
The quality factor. I mentioned the Steelers would have got. The Steelers lost 3 games in the season, 3 in a row, and then they're in. It's just... Did anybody watch the playoffs last year and be like, we got to change this? I don't think it works. Wild card weekend's not that fun. There's a if it ain't broke factor here. The NFL playoffs are awesome.
Yeah, there used to only be 1 wild card in the NFL, and they made 2.
They nailed
I think we like it, right? Like,
so you think more is
college football used to be just bowl games, and there were a bunch of traditionalists.
They say the NCAA tournament could go to 128. It's good. It's good. I love the NFL playoffs round. You think it needs to change?
I think if it's a 1 seed, and that 1 seed has the bye, and then you've got 3 other games to... I don't think it makes a drastic change to the NFL regular season. Do I want it? No, I don't want it. I also don't want to have... I don't want to have the Super Bowl go until February 15th, which it might be. I'm good having an off week last week, too. You know, I don't know. It's not me, though.
I think the most interesting point is yours about the stats. stats, Hall of Fame, skewing things. People are going to look at things, and it's not going to be the same if it's over.
They've talked about that in baseball a lot. 162 is a lot of games.
Purists of the game now say
You are the purist. You speak as a purist.
they would say that they don't call pass interference back then. You'd get mauled, so the numbers then didn't matter.
And
It's all
guys, we still
subjective.
do it now when we talk about stats. We say, oh, this many yards in the Super Bowl era.
That's annoying.
Or in the NBA. Or
messy.
this is the greatest jump shooter since they added the three-point line. Like, we get it. Things change.
Yeah.
And if they do adjust it, then we're just going to
But
have to
adding
put
the
an asterisk.
three-point line made the game way more entertaining. Adding a 17th game just makes more money. What, Michael Thomas going to have 300 catches in a season? It's unnecessary.
Kyle, this is America, okay? We are
Greed is
gluttonous.
good.
We are gluttonous. We want more.
Chief superfan and legendary artist
Money never
Melissa
sleeps.
Etheridge, an Oscar